Our fourth and final speaker today will be speaking from the Advanced Manual. An annual speech is specialty speeches, speaking off the cuff. The objectives of this speech are to develop an awareness of situations where you might be called upon to speak in an impromptu manner. Understand how to prepare for an impromptu speech and develop the skills as an impromptu speaker. The timing of this speech is the same as the previous two, 5 to 7 minutes. Our speaker is a native of Illinois, Tennessee, Missouri, and Minnesota. That might be a record. He's a husband and a father, a graduate of Southern Illinois University with a bachelor's in forestry and a master's degree in public affairs. Our speaker is a division chief with Miami-Dade County. Our speaker brought 5, not 1, but 5 prepared speeches today, and his evaluator has chosen one of those speeches, which he will now deliver. The title of this speech is U.S. History, the Fathers of the Country. Please join me in welcoming Michael Bowman.
Thank you for that introduction, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, most welcome guests. Who do we all know as the father of our country?
George Washington.
I hear 2 George Washingtons. Everyone agree with that?
Yes, sir.
In my opinion,
Samuel
you're all
Adams.
wrong. And what was the 4th of July important for?
Independence Day.
Our nation's birthday. Very good. Later, I will tell you another reason why the 4th of July was a very important day. And also why George Washington should not be considered the father of our country. George Washington was the general who led our army in battle against England to defeat the rule of England to become independent, as we proposed in our Declaration of Independence. Guess whose name is not on the Declaration of Independence? George Washington. Very good. It's notable that he was a general and that he led our army. He ultimately became our first president, but far, far from being one of the great thinkers of the time. Certainly not a drafter of our Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, or any of the great matters that took place back then. I heard the name John Adams back here.
Jefferson.
Thomas Jefferson, number 1 and number 2. I consider them, and arguably most historians consider Adams and Jefferson to be the real fathers of this great country. Almost single-handedly, John Adams argued in front of all the delegates that we should become independent from England. He was a great orator. John Adams had a skill that back then was so much above everyone else in his time that he was able to gather everyone together, all of the great thinkers, political leaders, and forge the effort for the Declaration of Independence. In fact, if you were to take Larry Benovitz, Norman Gaslowitz, Dick Gillard, and Moses, our Moses and the Moses, put them all together, their collective speaking skills would still not even get close to that of John Adams. He was that phenomenal of a speaker. Had a way with words when it came to speaking. He needed some help. Thomas Jefferson, on the other hand, did the writing. the two of them got together and forged the Declaration of Independence. Thomas Jefferson was so good at writing. He was a real wordsmith, a historical wordsmith. He was so good at it that John Adams almost gave him complete free will. Whatever words you came up with, Mr. Jefferson, we will use. And he wrote the Declaration of Independence. That document is still used today. Earlier today in the table topics, Toastmaster Dick Giller talked about Martin Luther King and his phenomenal speaking abilities. When Martin Luther King said, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, and that they are endowed by the Creator with unalienable rights, the pursuit of life, liberty, and happiness." Those words came from Thomas Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson wrote those words in the second paragraph of the Declaration of Independence. Although we struggle with those words today, and in our history we struggled with those words very seriously for the first 50 or 100 years, they are no less wondrous words. These men were great friends as they worked on the Declaration of Independence, and then the nation's Constitution and the Constitutional Congress in Philadelphia. But then they became political rivals. John Adams was elected president second. He served 2 terms. Thomas Jefferson defeated him and then served 2 terms. And they became very bitter political rivals. They both retired. Adams went back to Boston to enjoy a few beers with his cousin Sam Adams. Jefferson went to Monticello to practice his many, many skills. They remained rivals until 1812. In 1812, a mutual friend encouraged one of them to write the other and rekindle their friendship. And the friendship began again. They started writing letters back and forth to each other. There was no email back then. There were no telephones. It was Pony Express and the U.S. Mail. And they wrote such eloquent letters. Letters from former presidents that dealt with the issues of the day. These letters now are part of our national treasure. Any of you can go online and buy a book of these letters, or you can see them if you go to the Smithsonian. The writing of these letters continued for 14 years. Now, do you all remember our bicentennial?
Yeah.
1976. What a grand event that was, right?
Yes.
Imagine the 50th birthday of the Declaration of Independence. The 50th birthday of our country. What a great event that would have been. Only it was marked by one tragic event. These 2 gentlemen ended their letter writing on that day, because in the morning of July 4th, 1826, Thomas Jefferson died. A couple of hours later, on that same day, John Adams passed away. July 4th, 1826, exactly 50 years to the day of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Mr. Toastmaster.